Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue our study of the book of Judges with chapter 7. We read in chapter 6 about the emergence of a new judge, a new leader named Gideon. We learned of his humble beginnings. We read of his hesitation, of his persistent hesitation and demand for a sign from God that God would be with him. Today, we're going to read about his transition from having this lack of confidence in himself, so to speak, but more importantly, his lack of confidence in God, his lack of trust in God, that God would fulfill his promises to save the people from the hands of the Midianites who were oppressing them. A transition from that into someone who starts taking the credit for himself. And we start seeing the flaws in his character start to emerge. But we won't see yet in this chapter 7 those flaws have a serious negative effect. That will happen as we read about the end of his career. But first, we're going to read today chapter 7 of, we're going to begin the story of one of his great victories, one of his great successes as a leader. So, Vayashkem Yerubbaal. Remember, Gideon was named Yerubbaal, was given that nickname, meaning which meant may Baal fight his own battles. Baal being the most popular idol of the time, and may he fight his own battles. This when Gideon destroyed the Baal statue and the altar to the Baal. So that was what Yerubbaal meant. So that was who Gideon. That is also Gideon. He got up in the morning, b'cholam asherito, and all the nation that was with him. So remember, we left chapter 6 with all of the Midianites and their allies, the Amalekis and the Kedemites, all the marauders who were oppressing the people, were camped in the valley of Yisrael, or Jezreel Valley, and Gideon had gathered up people from the tribes of Manasseh and Zebulun and Asher and Naphtali. And he had a group of thousands of people that had gathered behind him to fight the Midianites and save themselves from their oppressors. So here he has his thousands of troops ready to go and attack the Midianites who are camped in the Jezreel Valley. So Machane Midian Hayalom Mitzafon, and the camp of Midian was to the north of him, Migivat Hamoreh Ba'emek, at the place called Givat Hamoreh, which was in the valley. So Vayomer Adonai El Gideon, God said to Gideon, Rav ha'am asher itach, there's a lot of people with you. Mititi es midyam midam, and there's too many of them for me to decide to give the victory against Midian in the hands of this large army that you've just assembled. And why? And God makes it very clear why. Pen yispo'er alai Yisrael Amar, because the people of Israel, if they win with such a large group of soldiers, they will take their glory, their pride away from me, and they'll be more proud, Lemar, to say, Yodi Hoshiali, my hand, I was the one. In other words, the people of Israel, were strong and powerful and many. We are the ones that saved ourselves. And God wanted to make it clear that this was not a natural, normal military victory, but this victory came the few against the many. So with so many people, it's the many against the many, so they're going to take credit for themselves. I don't want that to happen. God understood the nature of the people, and as we'll see, it was for good reasons. I want you to call out to all the people as follows. Mi yarei v'chored. Who here is afraid? Who is afraid of battle? How many people are timid, afraid, and scared? Yashov v'yitzpor mehar hagilad. Any such person should turn around and abandon, go back and fly away. Yitzparis, he should fly from the mountain of Gilad, which is where they were gathered. In other words, get out of here. If you're afraid, if you're scared of battle, get out of here. I don't need soldiers that are going to ruin the morale. Vayashav min ha'am esrim u'shnayim elef, and 22,000 people left. V'aseres alafim nisharu, and he was left with 10,000. So here we started apparently with 32,000 people. The vast majority were afraid to encounter their oppressors, turned around and left. Presumably these soldiers Gideon didn't really need to begin with, causing more problems than helped. But God said, I don't want to have such a large army. Send them away. Done. Verse 4, Vayomer Adonai el Gideon. So then God said to Gideon, Od ha'amrav, there's still a lot of you. Horedo samalamayim. I want you to do the following test in order to determine who should remain with you and be involved in the attack against Midian. Bring them to the water. Vetzerfenu l'chashlam, and I will purify them. Etzerfenu is a language used to purify silver, to get the impurities of the metal out. God say, I will get rid of the impurities by the water. I'll show you how. So the ones that I tell you, they should go with you. They're the ones that should go with you. And whoever I tell you not to take him with you, he should not go with you. So in other words, take them to the water. And God didn't even tell Gideon what the test was. So what it was going to be. I guess to make sure Gideon doesn't slip any hints to some of the people what to do to make the test as valid as possible. No one knew what the test was going to be. And he took all the people to the water, because the soldiers needed to drink. And now God said to Gideon as follows: as they go to the water, whoever laps up the water, kasher yalok hakelev with his tongue, in the same way that a dog laps up the water, tatzig osolovad, I want you to put him to the side. V'chol asher yichra al birkav lishtos, from all of those people who get down on their knees to drink. So the ones that lap up the water obviously have to lie down flat, right? And get close to the water. Those that get on their knees just bend down, take water either in a vessel of some sort or in their hands, and bring it up to their face and drink that way. Vayehi mispar hamalakikim bi'adam LPM, and those that drank the water with their hands, shlosh meosish. In other words, they drew with their hands, either with literally cupped their hands and took water to their mouths, or held a vessel, a cup or a bowl, and brought it to their mouths to drink. Shlosh meosish was 300 men out of the 10,000. V'chol yeseram, and the rest of the people, koru al birkeim l'shtos mayim, they got down on their knees and started lapped up the water to drink. So you have two groups of people: those that get down on their knees and drink directly from the water. So there's several explanations as to, but before I go through the explanations, let's read the next verse 7. Vayomer Adonai el Gideon, God said to Gideon, B'shlosh meos ish hamelakikim, with the 300 men who drink the water in the way that I wanted them to, which was to put it in their hands. Oshia escham, with those people I am going to save you. V'nasati Midian biyadecha, I will place Midian in your hand. V'chol ha'am yelchu ish l'makom, and the rest of the people, they should go home to their homes, to their places. So God sent home all of those people who laid down, put their mouths to the water, and drank directly from the water. Now, what does this signify exactly? And this kind of leads to a lot of different interpretations. I'm just going to go through some of the classic commentaries. The Rashi here says that those that bow down with their faces to the ground clearly have experience in that type of worship, which is the typical worship of an idol. So those people were clearly idol worshippers because they naturally went and bowed down, put their faces to the ground, and therefore those are the ones that I don't want in my army. The others are clearly not experienced in the ways of idol worship, and I want you to take them on the fight. That's one interesting understanding. The other commentaries basically look at this as a sign of strength. A person who bows down, right? Who bows down and puts his face to the floor, his face to the water, that's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of physical weakness. This is I'm going to the Ralbag. Gersonides looks at it this way. It's the way he explains it is a strong, powerful person doesn't lie down and put his face in the water. So he looks at it as a so therefore what this really was God's way of picking the strongest, physically the strongest people. The Ralbag, in his typical fashion, tries to take the rationalist approach, and it's simple a way of those that are lazy, those that are not strong, are the ones that put their face right in the water. That's another explanation. A third approach is the Malbim's approach, and that is a person who is governed more by his desires, his tava. Right? In other words, if you just put your face in and start lapping up the water right away, it's a sign of a person who's being driven by his desires, a person who doesn't think before he acts, a person who doesn't. So these are three separate, different approaches, and of course there are many others. I just, in this case, I think those three from the classic commentaries, Rashi, who looks at it as an indicator of avodah zarah, Ralbag looks at it as an indicator of strength, the Malbim looks at it as an indicator of someone who's thoughtful about what he does rather than someone who just runs after his desires. These are three all good approaches, and I'll leave it at that. But regardless, we now have only 300 men under the command of Gideon. And these are 300 men that were literally handpicked by God himself out of the 32,000 people who initially had volunteered to be part of this army. Now, the reason why God had whittled it down to 300 was because he wanted it to be as miraculous as possible. Despite that, and as we've seen from the beginning of Sefer Yoshua until now, the miraculousness of what happens in the battles tends to get less and less. The things become more and more, God recedes more and more into the background. The open miracles are not nearly as open as they were in the past. And I want you to pay attention to that while we read about the account of what's about to happen in this battle. So what did they do? Now that it is whittled down to 300 men, vayikhu et seidah ha'am biyadam, and they took the seidah, the provisions, the supplies, the food, the water, the ammunition, weapons, the tools that they needed, etc. They took them at shofar sehem, and they took their horns, which are a very important implement in ancient warfare. The noisemakers, ve'et kol ish Yisrael shilach ish la'alav, and all of the people of Israel, in other words, the rest of them, they sent them back to their tents. V'shlosh meot ha'ish, and with the 300 men that were left, hechazik, he strengthened himself. In other words, those were the people he gathered around him. And the camp of the Midianites was below him, down in the valley, down in the Amek is the plain that lies lower. In other words, they're on the high plateau, facing their enemy with 300 strong men behind him, and that's it. So we're going to stop here. We Judges 7a. We'll continue with the account of the battle when we study together the rest of this chapter. Thank you so much for studying chapter 7a together with me.